From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, I'm glad we're back for another show and get some time where you and I get to be on the mic. So it's good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Steve. And yeah, it's always great when we can connect and have a discussion.
Yeah, this episode we're gonna have to earn our keep. We have to we're gonna have to say more than a handful of words, but it's I think these are some fun episodes to change things up a bit, and we're really thankful for the guests that we've had over the past probably 6 to 10 episodes, and also just the audience participation and seeing the downloads increase. It's been so great, and we're always glad to welcome more people on our show. We'd love for you to come and tell your story, give you a chance to uh, be able to promote or share the things that you do, and also take that episode and share it with your audience. So please reach out to us, and we want some varied voices, and we also want to answer some questions that people want to hear more about. And I know, James, you have one, and if you caught our past couple episodes, we frequently have Dan Farisi on who does that for us. So James, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, no, thank you, Steve. This one, I wouldn't say really it's a question, but I dove a question from a conversation that I saw. And we all know, systems love to update, add new features, which can be cool, or it could be conflict of interest if you already have a piece of equipment that does that feature. And now they're competing. Um, Example here that what we're talking about is, Zoom came out with their auto framing. Cool feature on Zoom, but I don't know about you, see, but I almost think almost every room has auto framing cameras in them now, for the most part. So what, like, why would Zoom do this? I'm sure it's a feature they thought was cool, but now they're competing against hardware auto framing built into the camera. And now you have two points of failure and two similar solutions competing against each other.
I think it's an interesting question, and it's probably not just isolated to this case and this scenario. I could think of other situations in the past where it would be similar. Um, the thing I think that we're dealing with a lot lately is a lot of standalone solutions where the product itself is the control platform, and it's becoming smarter, and there's probably for every one integrated system, there's probably 10 or more Zoom rooms, let's say. I don't, it depends on obviously the organization. It could be a lot more than that. Same with Teams rooms. So I think that that's where the functionality stems from, and I don't know necessarily a lot of times that these product manufacturers are thinking beyond that. They're looking to put features into their solution because they're selling their solution, not necessarily selling their solution as being part of a bigger solution. And I think that there's a conflict there a little bit because I know for a fact that there's probably some competition or blurred lines where Zoom or other manufacturers would want to be the primary focal point of the room, not necessarily a control system, whichever one of you're choosing. But to your point, more and more cameras are becoming intelligent. More and more control platforms are integrating auto tracking and AI driven solutions. And this stems a little bit from the pandemic, but it's also, I think, another way is seeing how our industry is probably moving a little bit, inching closer and closer to being a merge with broadcast in some regard, where systems want to be more professional rather than panning in real time or having to manually control cameras. So um, we could talk more about how you handle things like that, but I think that that's where the basis comes in. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I can definitely see, and I agree with you. That's probably where the bases come in. I think where I'm coming from as a user, I don't even know. We're not really users anymore. We're the integrators in the house integrators because we have users. Where I get frustrated is a lot of these features, especially when we're looking at software. Like, I already designed a room. I already have the equipment in. I've already tested it. My auto framing is working the way I designed. And then boom, this software update comes out and now changes what I've already done. There's no word coming to me. I can't like it's not a feature that, oh, I gotta turn it on if I want it. It's like, here, you just get it. And it's like, okay, now my users are complaining. Knock on wood, no, I have not had a complaint yet. But I can see like it's more work for us because it's the manufacturer wants to be that end all be all instead of being part of the solution. They want to be the whole solution.
So I just quickly reference back to one of our previous episodes, episode 201, where we talked a little bit about this, where we were saying, how do you handle these products that are remotely upgradable, or it's either software as a service or they have auto updates on. It's a cloud-driven product. To your point, one day it works one way and another day it works differently. That could be anything from the GUI to the functionality to a critical uh, feature like you're just describing, where the manufacturer is saying, look, you just got this for free and it's amazing. And you're saying, you just wrecked my whole system because I didn't expect this and I didn't know that this was going to happen. And now I have um, things that are in conflict within my system. Um, the short answer is I think there shouldn't be anything like that on by default. It should be something that should be enabled. Secondly, I think that there needs to be more communication between the manufacturers and the integration community. And third, I think we need to be thinking a little bit broader about how we handle our systems.
I love the third option. We do need to think broader. We need to think holistically, all the impact, what's going to happen. What I'm seeing a lot is, and I don't blame them, but a lot of these manufacturers, they're only thinking about themselves. It's I need to do this, I need to do this, not we. And that's the thing is your first point, oh, don't have this feature on by default. I agree and disagree with that. I agree in my situation. Like I'm in a corporate environment, I'm in a controlled environment. That feature should not be enabled by default. If I was at home or a standalone user using this platform, I may not even know about that feature. So having it turned on, or I may not even understand what that really means, and having it turn on automatically, cool. I just think that's where I was like, I'm a little torn because yeah, if it's a home user system, turn it on by default. If it's a business license, business account, turn it off by default. More programming on the back end of the manufacturer, but does save some headaches and some frustration. And then, just letting those business admins, every cloud platform has a administrator who manages those accounts and all that stuff. Give them a notice. Hey, these are new features. They're off by default. Here's what they do. Here's how to turn them on. Here's how to keep them off.
Does this also come back to a conversation about being able to manage more products remotely so that and maybe I could think of an analogy in the IT world where you have an image for this is what your workstation is. Maybe you have an image for what your product is, and these are all the settings and so on and so forth. Just thinking about that a little bit in terms of needing to be able to have a way to manage. You certainly don't want to have to go through all of the menus and and set everything up manually each time. Um, I don't know, and I don't want to pick on any manufacturer or or Zoom. I mean, Zoom's a great product. We use that for recording here,
Yeah.
but it has a lot of options, just like many other products do, and sometimes those a lot of options you don't necessarily know what they do, and to your point, thinking about this. We also need to look at it from a design standpoint and say, um, when you are designing a system, I think part of the requirements needs to be this is the way this each product should be set up in order for this to be successful. Just another thought. I don't know how much of that is currently done. I'm a little bit removed from it currently, but I know in my experience, and this is, dating back some time ago, um, that wasn't always completely spelled out, and sometimes you had to go through and figure it out in the field.
Yes, I do feel there's a lot of trying to figure it out in the field. What does this mean? And that in itself can be problematic because you could have a tech who's a little more cautious and be like, all right, I don't know what this does. I'm not going to touch it. Or you might have a tech who is risk taking and go, I don't know what this does. I'm going to turn it on and see what breaks. Um, which is cool. I mean, like both are good, but then again, you are limiting what the tech can do because their knowledge is very limited. It's not clear, it's not easy to understand. There's no real world or head knowledge to link the two together and be like, okay, this feature means this. If I do this, this is the outcome. So having these features buried in menus, like I don't know how many times I'm digging for menus just to find something simple. And it's like I shouldn't have to dig for menus to find this, or it's worded different, or it's labeled something that makes no sense. It's like, why did they label it this way? Well, maybe it made sense to them.
Yeah,
And I'm currently reading a book called The Design of Everyday Things. Pretty good book so far. Still
it's a
early into
classic.
it, but it's interesting. It's a lot of psyche and what the mind does and thinks.
That's one that's been around for a long time and has been referenced quite a bit for UI and user experience. So if you haven't read that, if it's something you're interested in, that's a good one to pick up and a good basis too for how products are made. Um, I I think going back to what I was saying earlier too, um, there's certainly probably a debate too as to where we want that control to be. If and I kind of say control in quotes, is that do we want the control system to have the authority, or do we want the product to? And some might say the control system because I know that I could program it to do what I want, and that's not going to change, and that is going to work until it stops working. But if you have it in the product may do it better on its own, and I guess that's another thing to just think through, but it becomes a so some of it a little bit of trial and error, some of it a little bit of culture shock when something new comes in, and we've talked about this for a while is that uh, new features are best addressed in the lab, not in a live system. So I think that's really where the issue comes in.
I agree. You know, the features should be tested out in a lab. I wish we all would have a sandbox lab environment. We're all not fortunate enough to have those, or sometimes, real world gets in the way of having ideal world.
Yeah.
Um, I agree. Like putting in the control system is does what the word says, control, gives you the control. Putting it in manufacture the software, like you kind of lose that control. 'Cause you don't get to turn it on by default or off by default. It's like you don't kind of have a say. It's kind of like, here, we're doing this for you. This is in your best uh interest. Um, Not gonna go down any more rabbit holes with that because that might take us the wrong way. But that's what some of the times this feels like. It's just like you don't get a say. And it's someone who's what, fifth, sixth, hundredth removed from your environment, dictating what your environment needs.
And I would add for that, it's easy to be able to say, from a programmer's standpoint, I'm just going to allow the product to handle it this way. I don't have to be responsible. And maybe that is better because there are some things that a control system is not best doing. I remember, so talking about, auto camera switching and framing like you're talking about, I could recall us doing a system, and it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of certainly 15, probably 20 years ago, where they wanted that based on mic activity. So, and I had to figure out the logic to do that, and I put it in, and but it was and it worked, but it was never ideal because we just don't have the ability to do that at the level that you might be able to do it at in a product itself. And you also have to rely on, mic gating and thresholds and so on. And then how quickly do you move the camera? You don't want anybody to get seasick when the cameras are moving, and it I don't know how much when I know that those were very the people wanted those to put in their systems because it was a wow factor, and especially the designers did. But I wonder how often it was used. And but then if you put it in the product itself, it the product will handle it, and the control programmer who may not be able to do what a product could do itself um, has less responsibility or accountability. However, when it doesn't work, the programmer probably still gets called because nobody knows the difference, whether it was the product or the program. And a lot of times the programmer is said, fix it.
Yeah. That and that also leads right into my next point of when you have programmed it into your system and then the manufacturer comes out and bakes it in, and especially if you're not aware of this new feature and it's on, and now your system's not working as you designed, it makes troubleshooting so much harder. It's like, okay, is it the code? Is it the device? Is it an update? Like, where am I looking first? And that I would say would drive me nuts because I've been there where I've actually ran into a system that was working perfectly, and then an update came out and things aren't working, and I didn't know about the update, and I'm like, okay, why is this not working correctly? And I'm diving for my code, and I'm like, everything's great, and then I realized there was a change on the system that changed what we were doing.
Yeah. I I uh, I think that this more and more this is going to need to be something that is going to need to be planned for, and it may be that we have to take auto update off of products, although having products update is important for various reasons, and a lot being because of security. But it makes me think a little bit more also about some of the work that HETMA is doing and some of the other advocacy groups where they're trying to reach out and try build a bridge between the user community or the integration community and the manufacturers, and provide some of this feedback. I don't know how much of how deep that has gone and successful it's been, but at least we're headed in a good direction in that regard. I think more manufacturers are listening now, and they do want feedback, but some of them that are not necessarily integration dependent, let's say, or that's their primary market, they may be a little bit more tone deaf.
Yeah, I would say there are some manufacturers who are not listening. And then there are definitely manufacturers who are listening, and you can see the difference. You can
Yeah.
see it in the products, and you can see it in their this how the community responds.
It's probably a good place for us to wrap this one. I think this was a great conversation and it's an interesting debate. And I would really encourage anyone out there who wants to share an opinion or share their thoughts or experiences. Let's keep this dialogue open. Um, and one good way to do that is in our LinkedIn community for Ask the Programmer, but reach out to us as well, because the more the voices are heard, the more there's a possibility to strike a balance and find solutions. So, James, any closing thoughts and anything you wanted to share? How can people get in touch with you as well to continue the conversation?
Only closing thoughts I have, and again, this is not target at any manufacturer. You know, I know we mentioned Zoom here, but we love Zoom. Zoom is a great product and stuff. But again, this is just a general statement. It's not all about you. There's our other players out there. Play nice in the sandbox with everyone. And again, if you're trying to get a hold of me, Google me, you'll find me. Ask the program community on LinkedIn.
Very nice. And LinkedIn's probably a great place to find me as well at Steve Greenblatt. And we're doing a lot more. We've been sharing some episodes. We've been really striking up conversations, and more of our guests too are promoting the episodes that they've been on. So please check those out. And if you would share your favorite episode, it would be really cool to hear what resonates with our audience members, because that's really what we're about, and building community. But a lot of good things happen in here at Ask the Programmers, so please continue to be part of it. And we would ask if you want to help enhance our content, reach out to us. Um, my company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of this podcast, and one of the things that we do is help programmers be more successful by creating the API integrations as well as some of the other building blocks that programmers can use to enhance the functionality of their systems. So you can check that out at controlconcepts.net. Our podcast is on audio if you're listening on your favorite podcast player, or on video on YouTube if you're watching. Both are great places to connect with us, and we wanted to make sure that you're aware if you haven't been sharing or enjoying one or the other format. Um, and as we mentioned, our mailbag is open, so please reach out to us, and we'd love to hear from you. So thank you for listening and watching. Until next time, this has been Ask the Programmer.